So, without further ado, we'll get into the subject for the week, the Disneyland home movies. As I mentioned in my note, I had been scanning a lot of the films and not taking them all the way down the path of full restoration because I kept thinking the new scanner module is going to show up and I'll rescan it, that. So I ended up with quite a backlog from scanning stuff, doing the first stage of restoration, which is basically, I clean all the films um, manually. And I think I mentioned this before. There's a great solution called PEC 12, and then little wipes that they call PEC pads. So I'll take the film and I'll take it from on a video, a film editor, roll it through, clean the film, try to get the dirt off, but a certain amount of dirt still stays on. And the colors, of course, get a little wacky over, 50, 60 years for some of these. And the major thing I really like about cleaning them up is that in an 8mm film, there's always a little bit of movement in the film. You've got the movement of the camera operator, but there's always in consumers type stuff just a little bit of jitter where the film is going a little up, a little down, moving around. So when you're watching it, it has the movie look, right? Which may look fine 50 feet away on well, my living room's not 50 feet, but okay, 6 feet away. It may look better, but if you put it on the screen and it's a 32-inch screen sitting, I don't know how far this is, 18 inches or something from my face, that jitter really gets. So I run it through a program which stabilizes. It will take something like, say, my nose and figure out where that nose is, and is it moving up a little, move left a little, it dynamically adjusts the frame to keep the nose, center. So what we're going to see today is films that have been through step one of the process, and then they haven't been fully color corrected. I've been taking out the bad slices, and some of them I did so long ago, it's going to be rediscovering it for me because I don't remember. I looked at one or two of them the other day, and some of them came out really, really great. And others, got, oh, there's something, there's something, there's something there. One of those schools of photography. So I will warn everybody to get your Dramamine ready. And let me just queue up the first film here. Oh, here we go. Sorry, it's on a network drive, and the network drive, the computer puts the network drives to sleep when they're not being used, so it has to come out of its coma. So here, share screen. Okay. So we're going to kind of discover some of this stuff together. And I hopefully I have not shown some of these before. If I have, somebody yell and scream, and I'll go on to the next batch. And so again, this is the first step. When I put it into Pinnacle, the program I do most of the editing, I'll adjust the brightness and other odds and ends. But so we're
Did you say what year this was?
1962.
Thank you.
So we're standing inside the main gate, and you can see the old train that they don't use anymore. It put people literally in cattle cars, that sort of thing. So the whole train has been changed these days. Somehow, I guess the idea of paying $150 to get stuck in a cattle car lost some of its appeal. But off we go through nature's wonderland, the bubbling mud pots. I've mentioned in other talks how I love to walk out in that area when the park was closed. It was a great quiet area. It was very pretty. So the old Skyway round buckets. In some of these films, I saw the mermaids out in the lagoon. So the Atlantic Richfield owl or eagle, I guess, in the background there for the sponsorship of the Autopia. And there's the family waving to, I guess, mom and the kid are there waving to dad, taking the pictures. I miss the Skyway. I always found it a nice, relaxing way to get from one part of the park, or just for 8 minutes or whatever it took to get off your feet and just rest for a little while. It's interesting. I posted a picture online the other day of the Matterhorn in the 60s on how different the snow looks on it than the snow today. And it's just it doesn't look as good as it did. They don't have as much. It's not as much of a snow-covered mountain as it used to be.
The thing I'm noticing is the motion on this seems a lot jerkier than your more recent stuff.
Yeah, it's all again, what the initial photographer did. I mean, if the guy is just going from A to B to B to A to B, all over, some people just don't hold the camera very steady. So, but I think in a sequence like this, when you run it through the stabilizer, it comes out fairly well, as far as not bouncing up and down.
I was going to say, Bill, the Matterhorn changes due to global warming.
I said that online, and then of course, if you say that online, it starts an entire frigging controversy about there is no, the bad guy up on the roof shooting, the sheriff's going to come in. You're obviously not going to have, shooting at the park today, but oh yeah, you can make a joke about it. I said exactly that. Maybe it's due to global warming. Oh, there's no global warming. It's a hoax. No matter what you say, you say, my name is Bill. No, it's not. It just, it's astonishing.
Send those people to me, Bill. I'll handle them.
Yeah. I'd like to send them to the cornfield. If anybody's got a Billy Mooney Twilight Zone reference there.
Oh, you were thinking of Children of the Corn.
No, it's the one where Billy Mooney, for whatever reason, has absolute power to do anything to anybody. And if you, cross him, I mean, he's like 6 or 8 years old or something. And if you cross him, he sends you out to the cornfield as a human scarecrow. So it's a really scary Twilight Zone episode. Which when they later redid the Twilight Zone, they did a what you call it sequel to it. And Billy did a cameo in it. But what do you do if you tell your kid you need to eat your vegetables? No, Mom, I'm going to reduce you to 3 inches in size and stick you in a glass jar. So anybody that thinks you have problem kids, go watch that episode. So this is the sort of footage I'm going to redo with the new light source, which is infinitely better than the old one. But that's why I haven't taken some of these to the next step in editing, because I was planning on redoing them anyway. Now, it's interesting when you think about trying to stabilize something, think about the program trying to figure out what to stabilize when that bridge is going up and down. It's actually pretty smart. It will look for stuff with a lot of movement, tremendous amount of movement, and you set a sensitivity, it will ignore large amounts of movement, and it will fine tune it and look for the small amounts of movement, which are camera jitter and shake, and it will only take out the small amounts of movement and leave the big ones intact. So there's some people that are far better at figuring stuff out than I am. And you get to decide what the parameters are for how big the movement is. So it's worked out pretty well. I've got some scenes, for example, of people out on a power boat, and it kind of stabilizes for the people in the boat, because they're moving small amounts of jitter, but it doesn't go crazy. As the boat's bouncing up and down, going across the waves, it's not trying to take out the boat action. It's taking out the interaction with the people inside the boat. This is where I'll do some judicious editing, pictures of a pith helmet going past bushes are of little interest in the long run. So this helps date it. Again, we know it's 62 because they put the title on it, but the pre-rail system on the Autopia. And again, I love catching these things. You don't have the horse-drawn Surrey. Oh, the motorboat cruise. This was a lot of fun, and when you put your kids in it and they actually think they're doing a power boat.
It's very convincing.
Well, especially when you're going through the rapids and stuff, and they had jets of water that would spray against the boat or the rocks and everything to make the current look intimidating and everything.
Hands off the wheel. As I recall, it's a smoking area. Or one.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's a smoking area today. I don't know if it's still one, because the smoking area that I knew was over by the Haunted Mansion is gone now. I don't know if this one is still there.
I think they're all gone, actually.
Yeah. I don't know if people follow the news. We get it, of course, out here, but Disneyland has a major expansion program that they're calling Disney Forward or Disneyland Forward, and they just went to the City Planning Commission in Anaheim this past week, to try to do this project. It's a $1 billion plus thing, and they got the first. And one of the things they have to do is take some city streets that run through the property now, and then they're asking the city to let them have the street. So the City Planning Commission gave okay to it, I think Wednesday or something of this week, and now it has to go before the whole Anaheim City Council for approval. But it may be interesting to see what future expansion and everything comes to Disneyland.
So how much is that going to give them if they just take a street? I thought I'd read they were also going to try to get that part where the Holiday Inn and the other hotel is.
I don't know all the details. I don't think they're trying to get it through eminent domain or anything, Caroline. I think they're trying to buy it, but they don't need it if they don't get the street. I think it was that sort of deal.
Yeah,
I think
it's land,
a lot of it is
it's
just-
land that they already own. They said in the news thing I saw, it's not any new land other than the street aspects of it, getting that from the city. And they're talking about maybe leaving some of that as pedestrian, but no vehicle.
Yeah, you
And
wonder
it's
if they could-
rezoning of everything.
You wonder if they could just, tunnel and leave the street there and just have it go underneath the damn park, something like that. So anyway, we're now in Rancho Palos Verdes at Marineland. I mentioned in past talks, this was a kind of really neat park out there in the right off the ocean. So I always felt bad for the seals and everything they're doing the show, because if they could get over that wall back there, they could go down the hill. It's actually more go down a cliff, but there's the ocean. So it's just on the other side. So, you think they'd probably smell the thing. And I guess if you're staying someplace and somebody's giving you 12 square meals a day, maybe, and you don't have any orcas eating you, so maybe it's a good spot for them. But it was always like the ocean was so close to the park. This area, I think we mentioned a couple weeks ago, is having massive landslide issues. It's been a problem since the 60s, but with the rain we had last year and this year, it's really accelerated the slippage in the area, and houses are getting literally just torn in half. Roads are collapsing. It's a real mess. I really feel bad for the people that live out there. And we had some houses this past week here in our valley. All of a sudden they've been there, 40 years, but I guess I'll just fall down the hill today. So, it makes me very glad I was never wealthy enough to afford a hilltop home in LA. Now, Carol and I were here. Anybody else? Brock, did you ever go to Marineland?
Yeah, and I think I've talked in the past about the fact that we use Marineland for
Oh, that's right, the tank,
research.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I went there as a kid and really liked the shows, and especially when they got the what was it, the gray whale, not the killer whale, but that other whale, bottlenose, I think it was, or something. That was kind of an interesting one.
Anybody else?
What year did they close?
What's that?
What year did they close?
Oh, goodness. It was somewhere in the 80s, I believe. Yeah, I'd have to look it up, but I mean, literally it was just like my, the guy giving me the news. I'm in business. No, I'm not. Literally everybody was at the park. Everybody was having a good time. They went home.
Do you know what year we went to Marineland?
Yeah, everybody went home at the end of the day, including the employees. And then the message came out, don't come to work tomorrow, we're closed. And during that night, the trucks came in, picked up the animals and took them off to other, was owned at the time by Harcourt Brace Jovanovich. They took the animals off to other parks. Theoretically, and again, I don't know how true this is, they also supposedly, when they drained all these tanks and everything. Supposedly they poured concrete into all the water systems to render them totally unusable, so that if anybody ordered them to reopen the park and bring the animals back, they could say, no, nothing works anymore. So, there was a lot of very upset people, when it closed. You can imagine if you're working there, 20 years or something, and all of a sudden you're just told, stay overtime tonight. We need you for something. It's to put the killer whale on a truck and take them to Ohio, and don't bother coming back tomorrow. It was not handled well at all.
Carrie says we were there in 79.
Okay.
And guess what? I have the record.
Is there a record from here?
Oh yeah, I can dig it out if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll dig it out while we're doing this.
You're during the forget, it was the late 60s, early 70s. The park is always up against Disneyland. It's up against Not Berry Farm, and there were so many of the theme parks in the area. We saw the Japanese Deer Village and everything, that attendance was always a challenge, because it's not real easy to get to this place. There's no super easy freeway access. So at that point, it was owned for a while by 20th Century Fox, and they turned to Irwin Allen, who had done so many shows: Lost in Space, Time Tunnel, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, all that sort of Land of the Giants. He was a big force at 20th Century Fox, and they asked if he could do something to try to, pep up the park. So he came out, he had filmed in the tank, just like Brock did. They filmed parts of episodes of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. They brought out some of the miniatures and put them on display. And there were things that made no sense whatsoever, but if you went to Marineland, you could meet the Lost in Space robot, stuff like that. So, that lasted about a year or so, and then they decided that was, not getting anywhere, and they tried other odds and ends, and they finally sold out, to a hardcore Grace Jovanovich, and because they owned several other Marinelands or Sea Worlds or whatever in other parts of the country. And like I said, the animals mostly ended up going to Ohio. This is down below the base of it, so the park would be up above. Down here, it's probably totally gone now, but there was a World War II ship, the Dominator, a Liberty ship that crashed there on the shore. They had lost power, got caught up in a storm and blown into the rocks. And that was a really cool dive to dive on, because most wreck dives are really way down and a pain, dangerous to get to and everything. But the Dominator, was parts of it stuck above the water at the low tide. So if you wanted to go and dive on a wreck, and it was pretty neat to get it. I'm not quite sure what period this is. Did anybody get a good look at it? I'm also trying to figure out exactly where that was with the tram ride going along with it.
Well, when they were getting in the car to go to Marineland, it was a 1959 Chevy, so it's got to be. It looked like a fairly new car, so it probably is in the very early 60s, maybe late 50, 59 and above.
Well, this is all dated 62, and
Okay.
people could always throw a thing out of order. I do have one film where, again, a guy says it's 1962, say, and well, okay, that car is very definitely a 1979 or whatever. So, but yeah, trying to figure out exactly where all this is, which zoo.
Apparently parts of Dominator are still visible on shore. It's not underwater. You can go out, hike out there and see it.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah, it was, like I said, it was a real fun dive. What was also make it nice was that it was a very short boat ride. If you go down to San Pedro, get on a boat and go out there, you were there in 15 minutes. Because otherwise, sometimes the dives you do, well, Carol and I aren't doing them anymore, but sometimes you would get on the boat, sleep overnight, and it would, take all night to get to where you were going. Okay, so we'll end that one. If anybody, it's interesting how you think about different things. If you look up a story, there's a boat called The Truth or Consequences, and I'll just pause this real quick. it was a dive boat that went out of, I think it was Ventura. And I went out on it a number of times. And again, you go out on at night, sleep on it, or you know, whatever. And unfortunately, a number of years, about maybe 3-4 years ago, at night the boat caught fire and it killed almost everybody on board. You know, the crew all jumped to safety. Everybody below decks died. And you know, you just read the story and you think, oh wow, you know, like, been on that boat, slept in those beds. So you know, sometimes you dodge the bullet, right? So that was Knott's Berry Farm real quick. Now we're going off to Disneyland. That was, I mean, whatever reason they shot 6 feet of, you know, Knott's Berry Farm. But here's Disneyland, the old toll gate, and driving on in. This is all, of course, now California Adventure. This one I did not have, oh, this is 1963. So it shouldn't look too terribly different than we saw in the last one. I got a kick there. I mean, that went pretty fast. A little information and key and souvenir kiosks, they were dotted around the park. In the background, you can see the store for Wurlitz or organs, where they would demonstrate them, and you know, you could buy an organ and they deliver it for you. And I wish he was moving a little less quickly around the area, but you know, Main Street, the side streets that go off it.
Yeah, I think the jitter that I was seeing is really the frame rate.
Oh,
And that example you did recently of converting the frame rate would probably work well on this.
Yeah, that's my intent, is to you know, do these and try to get them up to like a you know, 60 frame per second rate.
Bill, can you see the Marineland record? I went and it wasn't where I thought it was, so I just looked it up online and
No,
There's-
when I'm presenting, all I can see is the movie screen. I can't see any of these. So if you're all sticking your tongue at me, I can't see. But
Okay.
I'll watch the video. I'll watch the replay and I'll catch you. So don't stick your tongues
Okay.
out.
all right.
Now let's see. I have to remember we're into 48 minutes. So I'm gonna have to go back and look for tongues. You know, it occurred to me the other day, there's just the shot of the patchwork quilt there from Storybook Land. I wonder how many millions of miles Casey Jr. has run around that track since it went in. You know, and you start wondering, you know, how much of it have they had to, you know, because everything wears out, you know, had to replace the engines, the wheels, the axles, or anything. But you just start thinking, it's a tiny little ride, goes around a tiny little track, but it does it a zillion times a day for, you know, 70 years or something. You know, how, oh, there's the submarine lagoon empty as they're repairing it. But just think how many times that thing's gone around. It's got to be monumental amount of mileage on it. You could just catch real quick. There was one of the Kodak picture spot signs that used to dot all over the park. And we leave Disneyland and we pop, well, it was still, you can see the Haunted Mansion, we're still at Disneyland. Like I said, I haven't watched some of these, you know, super recently.
Good old Cascade.
Indian Village, which is where Bear Country was built. One of the things on the sample reel I did with the new light source, it really does an amazing job by not blowing out some of the highlights in some of these images. I did a film of the 64 World's Fair that was shot both in daytime and at nighttime. And at night you could you know, you just see like a white thing and okay, what was it? Now redoing it, you can see it says, oh, Tower of Light. You know, I mean, you can make out the wording and everything's not blown out and everything. So when I get the final bugs out of it and get everything settled down and get my nerves resettled, I intend to start working on it. There was the mule train real quick that they just went by. and that again was one of my favorite areas, just to walk that mule train path, go through the forests of Nature's Wonderland and everything. It was, I always thought they should just take people on walking tours and charge them, an e-ticket. But think about it. If you had a chance to go walk out in Nature's Wonderland, how many people would not sign up and do that?
Right. Did I ever tell you that I have a friend, his name is Larry Pettit. He lives up in Park City, and he used to be one of the wranglers on the mule train.
No, I
And
think you might have mentioned it, but did he ever
he
get
still,
bit?
pardon? Oh, I don't know. The horses would like nip at people and stuff, he said, or the mules. But then I just think the real interesting thing too is he still works for the Disney family. They have a ranch in Wyoming near Jackson Hole, and he said he goes up there a couple times a year to help with the horses and stuff.
That's neat.
Yeah, I've got like a 2 hour, he did a presentation for our Disney club and I recorded it.
Oh, ask him if there's another picture sign. Ask him if he'd ever like to join and talk about his his mule days. Like I
Sure.
said, the mules weren't running. I started in '76 and they had stopped shortly beforehand. But the people that worked in the area said you had to keep a first aid kit real nearby because they would take nips out of people.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
It looks like
The article I read the other day said that the biggest problem was like the other vehicles going by, spooking them all the time.
Yeah.
So if they added more attractions to the park, instead of getting used to it, they were getting more unused to it. Or whatever, yeah.
I read an article about how they train the police horses in New York City.
Yeah.
Because they got to basically take a taxi, drive it up to the horse, and start honking the horn. As people will do, and then they obviously have to work their way up to it. But man, it's got to take a lot of patience to to train those poor animals to to deal with it.
Yeah. I used to have horses and we'd ride around, and people just thought that was so funny to, kind of drive, swerve over towards you and lay on the horn. And, this is not funny.
No.
Uh.
Okay, this one's ending. Let me get the next one right. It's funny you talk about people swerving towards you. I was out directing traffic yesterday where somebody went off they bounced off the guardrail, hit a very large electric power pole that for high tension wires, bounced off of that and hit another car head on. And it's right on a mountain road on a curve on a hill. So we're out there directing traffic and we'd have to stop everybody going south to let some people go north and everything. And this woman comes down the road and she's hanging out of the car yelling and screaming like a maniac. And I'm thinking, oh man, some people just lose their temper because they're stuck in traffic and she couldn't have waited more than 4 minutes or anything and realized that she went by with my next door neighbor saying hi. I got a kick out of it. So let me we're going to jump to the other side of the country just because I'm on this reel. I haven't watched this for a while, but we're going to take a look here, and it's Washington, D.C. in 1964. So we'll just go see if how much of our nation's capital has changed since then. I think people also get a kick sometimes of seeing, the dress and the styles, whether it's in Disneyland or Washington, and also some of the old cars. But Carol and I went to Washington quite a few times when Neil was living there, and I had been there before with my grandparents. I did some work at the Pentagon and everything, so I personally just enjoy seeing the various items there and how some have not changed at all, and others like it's progress moves on. Wasn't very crowded that day, was it? So the tour buses lining up. I mean, I remember the first time I went there, it was really interesting. We toured the FBI building, and the most important, exciting part of that day was they brought out a Tommy gun. the old machine guns with the round drum and everything. And he told everybody, stick your fingers in your ears, this is going to be loud. And he just let off an entire round of ammo, down the firing range. And that was really cool. I mean, you see the Tommy guns in all the gangster movies, but to actually see one. But the real exciting part was we went over to the Bureau of Printing and Engraving, where they, were printing money and also stamps. And I was big into stamp collecting this time. So to see, these are the new stamps that are going to come out next month, and wow. But the best part was they printed up a sheet of money, and I think it was $1 bills or anything. And I think there's something like 50 bills or something in the sheet, whatever it is. But they passed it around to everybody, and the guy said, joking about, you have to keep in mind, I'm not going to take my eyes off of you and let anybody, rip off a piece of it. And they also had not printed the serial numbers on it, so that if anybody did get it, it wouldn't be any good. But it was just really cool to stand there and the guy, saying, okay, over in that stack of, those are $100 bills, and they were in pallets, shrink wrapped and everything. And, that's $1 million. Would you like to go over and touch it? And they would let you walk over and put your hands on $1 million. Wow, for a 12-year-old kid, that was really exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing to see no barriers and fences around these buildings.
Yes, yeah, it's really changed, hasn't it? Yeah, I'm sure today they don't blast off an entire round of a Tommy gun. I'm somehow willing to bet they don't let you down onto the production floor where they're making $100 bills. Everybody's so well dressed. Look at that. I have never seen the mall area so empty in my life. I mean, it is just absolutely devoid of people. There's hardly any traffic. In recent years, my God, every time you go out there, this area is just chock-a-block full of people. I'm always trying to figure. Oh, Neil is right near there, right near the Iwo Jima Memorial. We could walk from his apartment over there. So his apartment's too new; it's not going to show up in the video. But it was just kind of neat to go over to Arlington. Here's the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, getting ready for the changing of the guard.
Does anybody really know who's buried in that tomb?
I've understood that
DNA
in
evidence
recent
on it.
years, I understand in recent years, they pretty much figured out who they are because of DNA. There's Kennedy's grave. You can imagine he had not been long dead by the time this was shot in 1964. But yeah, I understand that in most cases, not just the United States, but other countries where they have the unknown soldier, they pretty well know who they are right now.
Is there just one person in that tomb or multiple people?
I think there's multiples because I think it was from multiple wars. Again, that's my recollection, but maybe Don can look it up and tell us. He's probably already knows the guy's shoe size. But
As I recall, there's one from each major war. But I'll look at.
Yeah, thanks.
I think
This
once they
is-
identify them, they take them out and replace them with another unknown too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, this is the church. I think it's called the Church of the Immaculate Conception. It's a national cathedral, which was started somewhere in the 20s or something. And in '64, when I was there, they were still working on it. It's one of those things where, you figure, are you ever going to finish it? Then you realize how long it took them to build some of the cathedrals over in Europe, hundreds of years. You sure wish this guy had cleaned his camera lens that day, huh?
The cathedral in Barcelona still isn't finished, and they've
Yeah.
been working on it for what, 250 years, something like that.
Yeah,
I think about
long
100,
time.
130 or something like that.
Is that, yeah, that's probably more like it. Yeah.
Took them a long time because they didn't have power tools.
You mentioned
That's
something like
funny.
that. I thought about it years ago. Carol and I took a trip on the Durango to Silverton Railroad. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a train nut. I also like, the outdoors and everything. But they built an entire route in 1 year. And, they had basically guys would hang from a rope, drill a hole into the rock by hand, put the dynamite in it, swing out off to the side, blow it off into the creek and go down and do another one. And, you look at stuff, like the Erie Canal and everything, I think we're just looking at the guy's house now, so I'll stop. How long and how many people it took to build some of these things. And today you can come up with a machine, like you go to one of the copper mines or anything, they have machines bigger than my house that will just eat the entire reel, entire, scoop of stuff and drag it out there. So,
Well, I think too, part of the issue with things like churches and cathedrals is they have building budgets and they can build so much at a time and then it sits for a while. Then they have another fundraiser to raise more money over the years and then they can build another section of it versus like the US Capitol was all built at once because it was government money and they just built it.
right. Well, this reel here, let me look at it. This was something I shot on the news scanner. So whoops, where did I lose my picture? Hang on, lost it here. Okay, so this is on the new scanner, but it hasn't gone through the correction process or anything. So what's interesting is trying to again, it's like if somebody took your car and took out the engine you have in it, and they stuck in a high-powered engine, and they took the gas and brake pedals and put them on the opposite sides. Looks the same, does stuff different. So I'm still trying to learn from it. But I took the original version of this and compared it. Like right here is a dark section. You don't see that weird light pattern that used to happen on the thing before on the old light source. So what on sections like that where it's too dark to see anything, I'm just going to go and just edit it all out. But what's interesting, and sometimes more is better, sometimes it's not, because it was a 2K camera. Now it's a 4K camera. It picks up a lot more detail, and you can see the clear delineation and the train cars and that. But it also picks up all the scratches and all the dirt and everything at twice the resolution. So that's where I have to start getting used to how do I fine tune this thing for the jitter situation. How do I fine tune it for grain and dust removal? One thing I am happy about is that the new camera has it's not automatic, but it has a white balance. You can hit it and it will adjust the white balance. So this thing is all done without color correction, in the computer. It was all just done with a white balance on the camera. And if I showed you like I love that cat going up the tree. And in the 2K version of it, the cat is basically a white blob. It's doing what I wanted to do in terms of the better light source and everything. It's just like I said, I'm on a learning curve. So but then again, I had to learn the first scanner, right? I had to figure out what it did or didn't do. Rattlesnake there and coyotes. Boy, Carol and I were out walking the dogs yesterday. Boy, didn't we hear the coyotes, Carol? We kind of turned around and came back home quicker because they were just on the other side of a hill we were on, and we didn't want them to decide to come over our side of the hill. But that was 4 in the afternoon. They were just going but great. So the burning cabin, the poor settler lying there. And this part again, just totally dark. When I edit this down, this is the sort of stuff. The mules were going by in its shot. You can make out just one shot of a mule going by. All the stuff that's totally dark. When I do these films and finish them, all the dead footage there and everything will be gone. So let me just real quick here go back to just for a point of comparison here. I won't do the whole movie, but this is what you got beforehand. with the other light source. So this is the original 2K scan. And if you compare it to how bright this is and how washed out things are, I will adjust the brightness of the 4K scan and raise some stuff up and everything. But this is what I was hoping for in terms of not having things that were either way blown out. It was always a challenge of, you know, like the shirt of the guy right behind the Indian guide. You can see his shoulders look like they're glowing. If you look at back at the new one, he's wearing a white shirt, not a neon white shirt. So wish me luck. I'll get there. We'll figure it out.
I think the highlights look really nice on the new scan.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because after 15 months of agony and all the grief I'm going through, I'm glad somebody noticed. Thank you.
And the sky shows coloration that's saturated, which is also a good sign.
Yeah. No, the new camera, before I bought the upgrade, I took a reel that I had done on my scanner and I sent it to somebody who had gotten one of the 4K systems sent, because what he first did, he went from a 2K system to a 4K system, and then he came up with a kit to retrofit the 2Ks to 4Ks. But before I spent the money on going for the 4K upgrade, one of the 4K owners was very gracious. I sent him a reel of film. He did it, sent it back to me, and I was able to compare it to what I had and what he did. And it was definitely what I was hoping it would be. That's why, I said, okay, it was a little late the last time. I'll go buy it and wait. And I was waiting and waiting, but like I said, I'm not joking. Every now and then I would take out the sample reel the other guy did for me and look at it and say, yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. So we'll get there. My major thing is how many hours have I put into doing scanning stuff, and now I'm going to do it all over again.
Hopefully this time you'll have some automatics tuned in, and it won't be so excruciating.
Yeah, by now I love right here. Let me just go back real quick. Again, the real things you find in these movies. Let me just go here real quick. Go back. Lady's eating, looks like an ice cream or anything. But you look at the lady here, and I just try to figure out. And Tom, you may appreciate this. How much did she contribute to the ozone hole by X-ray? I just.
Oh, her hairdo.
Yeah, that's a lot of hair,
Yeah.
Usually that's the kind of person that sits in front of me in the theater and I can't see.
Yeah.
And just seeing it, you have that smell that you remember.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just like, ugh.
I years ago I broke my ankle, and I was in crutches, and there was some movie. I was living in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, so it was some movie I wanted to see, and I lived on the same street as the theater. It was like 2-3 blocks down, and I walked down there with the crutches and everything, and the guy says, well, we don't know if we're going to show the movie. We don't break even unless we have 8 people. We've only got 6. Great. I've walked all the way down here. So finally 2 other people come up and he says, okay, we'll go show the movie. You can go in. I sit down, and I'm sitting in a theater that seats, 350 people or something, full-size movie theater. There's 8 people in the movie theater. Sit down. The guy comes and he sits in front of me, and he's got to be 6'3". And I said to him, do you mind? He goes, oh, I didn't see you there. It was kind of dark. But I couldn't believe with this 300-seat theater, this guy sits in front of me like that. Carol and I also, we were down in the Florida Keys, and we went to a movie, and it was John Candy. Oh, it was Uncle Buck. There was nothing to do. We went to see Uncle Buck, and there were a total of 4 people in the theater, and the other people came and they sat in front of us, same sort of thing. And because everybody sits 3/4 of the way back in the center, and that's where we were, and this guy sat down. So okay, let's get up and move 2 seats to the right. But again, 4 people in the entire movie theater, and they sit in front of you.
Well, that's what's nice about the new stadium seating. You don't have to deal with that.
Yep.
I get it even worse. We see a lot of Broadway show productions here, and you buy the tickets months in advance. You pay top dollar to get like 5th row orchestra, and it's all sold out. When you get there, the biggest person you can imagine sits in front of you, and you
Yeah.
can't move your seat.
No, no. No, that definitely does happen. It seems like, that's why I hate tall people. If they, when I become king, they're gonna have to walk on their knees or something.
How tall were you?
5'8". Oh, well, I was 5'8" at one time. I'm probably 5 foot now. Everybody shrinks.
You're about the same size as me.
Okay, this reel has footage that appears to go between a combination of 1974 and 1976. Come here. Why aren't you playing for me? 1 second. Let me try this again. Okay, let me try. I clicked on something. I just need to restore this. Okay, Disneyland. Let's go. Okay, here we go. So again, we can tell it's 1976 because we start seeing some of the bicentennial stuff. So again, you try to date these things by what shows have come and gone or open or closed, that sort of thing. This was a Super 8 movie, so a slightly larger film image, and the difference between 8 and Super 8 is really remarkable in times. I mean, the films are the same overall width, but when you see the difference in the image size and then the improved sprocket handling on the Super 8, they generally end up with a far better image and then stabler. In the back, there was just a sign for Welch's. They had the Welch's grape juice bar right next to the Fantasyland Theater. It had a wonderful, wonderful background painted by Ivan Earl, who had done the backgrounds for Snow White. It was just beautiful. And when they took the building, when they tore out all of Fantasyland, they made an effort to try to save that background, but it just wouldn't. It came apart as the building came apart. So it was really a sad loss. It was really very pretty to look at, and but it shows up very rarely in photos because it was in the background behind the people working the counter in the shade. So
Wasn't that Sleeping Beauty, Ivan Earl?
yeah,
Yeah.
what did I say?
You said Snow
You said
White.
Snow White,
Oh,
but
I'm
we
so
all know
sorry.
it's Sleeping
No,
Beauty.
Just thought we'd catch you on something, that's all.
Yeah. By the
Yeah.
way, did you notice what that guy's holding in his hand?
Mickey camera.
Yeah, yeah. He would hold up and take a picture through Mickey's eyes, But oh no, Ivan Earl. I mean, the look and feel of the stuff he did was just phenomenal, and that's why it makes Sleeping Beauty look so totally different than any other Disney film. And back when you could go out to the Fort, Sam Clemens, or Fort Wilderness here, Sam Clemens in Florida, and go through the secret escape tunnel and everything else. It was great stuff. Now we've jumped over to Universal Studios, and they're riding the stagecoach. They bounced up and down, and the background behind them is a giant roll of background. So you take it, and you're going by the mountains and the Indian village and everything. And they have a sign up there that you can't go up top and no more than X number of people. But it's again, look how much entertaining this was for somebody in 1974, and think what we have to do today to entertain people with attractions like the Star Wars attraction or Mickey's Runaway Railroad. I mean, it was a simple world. You can imagine, Brock. Think about how easy it'd be being an Imagineer back then, right?
Yeah, seriously, it's really changed the level of what you have to present to people. Here, the
Oh,
kids, you
yeah.
can tell, are having a great time, but that wouldn't hold true anymore.
No, wouldn't hold true at all. Now on the same reel, again, just as long as we're here, because I'll never probably show them any other time, we're going to take a quick trip down to Mexico.
Herb Ryman in the last.
Oh,
film.
actually, it says Mexico, but I don't know if this is okay. Yes, we'll also go back to the other one in a second. Operation Sail for the bicentennial. So I have no idea what boat these guys are on to go there, but people like pictures of cruise ships and things, so I figured I would do it. If anybody can identify it, I'll see. Try to get a still frame off one of the life preservers or something. But off they go. And if anybody recognizes any of these places in Mexico, please please let me know. I'm
They
surprised.
look like they're on the Love Boat, Bill.
What's that?
They look like they're on the Love Boat.
Oh, okay.
You remember the Love Boat? They would always go to Acapulco in like every episode. That's what it looks like.
Oh, okay. I was surprised somebody just said, yeah, it looks like a Mexican beach, so, but, yeah, okay, thank you. I haven't seen that, to know it. So, again.
Oh, I don't know where this actually is in Mexico, but it just looks like the deck in every episode of the Love Boat.
Okay. It probably, who knows, they may even be on the Love Boat. So some ruins and cliffs. I've been recently redoing a bunch of my parents' photos. People may have seen some of them posted on Facebook. And it's really interesting at times to try to figure out exactly where they were. At times, my mom did most of the photography. And at times she was, really good about writing stuff down, where they were, anything. And other time we'll just say 1974 cruise. Okay, where'd you go and everything? And then you get, sometimes you'll see the name of the ship, the MS Southward. Okay, that gave me an idea of, where they, what ship they were on. And then you look and you see, okay, the slide was processed in, whatever, say August 1973. Okay, and with the, online history today, you can say the Southward went, and then, okay, you start looking, they went here, they went there, and you can start putting it together. In some other cases, I still have stuff, I have no idea where they were, what they were doing, but all I know is what year it was. But, what's really truly amazing is you can take some of these still images and drop it into what they call Google Lens, which does a reverse image lookup. And there'll be like a church somewhere, and you drop it in there, and it instantly identifies it as the church and where it is and everything. It's truly an amazing tool if anybody is trying to do some forensic, determination of where something was shot. A lot of times, the only thing it can do is tell you, this looks like a church, thank you, I knew that. But in other cases, it will come right back and tell you exactly where it was. So it looks like we are in Colombia.
Are you getting these things from cartel members?
Yeah, if all of a sudden we identify, any of the cartel guys, I don't want to put my life at risk.
Sure, they have families too.
Were drugs a problem there that far back?
I don't think so. I don't think back in 76. Never heard of it. For drug cartels up here at that point in time. Now, my parents went to a lot of these places. My parents were part-time travel agents, so they would get all sorts of things, what they call fam trips, familiarization trips. And it was basically, we'll fly you to places, and you pay the taxes, and that's the only thing. So they got to go to all sorts of places, take all sorts of cruise. And I was talking, that's kind of an interesting modern building. I don't know where that was. You got a nice shot there, that bird. So now we're in Panama. But I was just talking with Carol at dinner last night. My parents had gone to Haiti as a guest of the Haitian government, because my dad his main time job was in the shipping business, and he was advising the Haitian government how to deal with containers when containerized shipping became a big thing. And my mother always talked about how the airport was really nice, the hotel was really nice, and everything in between was the worst thing she'd ever seen in her life. So I'm just watching all the news coming out of Haiti today, and how terrible all the problems they're having down there. And thinking that, wow, my folks were there 50 years ago, and what mom thought was bad then, thank God they're not guests of the Haitian government today, because it appears there is no Haitian government. So again,
that year, everybody had motion picture cameras, but they certainly didn't know how to use them. They never held them steady. They panned too quickly.
Yeah, you do get some that are really good, but most I'll agree
Not too
with you.
many.
People didn't think this stuff through, and I guess we're just going to see Junior playing softball. So let me get something else here. But yeah, you wonder if anybody, I can understand if you shoot it and you don't realize when you're shooting it that how terrible it is and everything. But do you think you would go back after you shot it and learn from it that wow, that was really bad. I should do the next one better. But a lot of people don't seem to have learned from their prior mistakes.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So this one starts somewhere in the house, and then we're going to pop out again. This was labeled 1974, but this was Operation Sale for this U.S. Bicentennial in 1976. So this was a really neat thing. I actually went back to New York, visit my folks back there. But these are all Navy ships that are lined up, and my dad's office directly overlooked the harbor, and we had a really great view of going out to out there, sitting there and watching all the sailing ships. Somebody's playing tennis or something. But basically, you had all the Navy ships come in. They lined up there, and then you started bringing in the sailing ships, and there were sailing ships from all around the world. And a lot of people came out there in their private boats, and I've never seen in my life. Oh, they're doing a demonstration there. I've never seen the harbor so crowded in my life. I mean, how the fact that nobody hit each other and sunk each other was just astonishing. But anybody had a boat went out there on the big day on July 4th, and it was really great. They had a incredible fireworks show right over the harbor, and they had spent a bunch of money to restore the Statue of Liberty and stuff. But it's funny, the things I remember was that the minute the fireworks show ended, my father had us going down the elevators, and the subway station was right near the his office, half a block away. And my dad was a pretty laid back, mellow sort of guy, but he was that day he was a slave driver. Go, go, go. Because he knew that all the 80, 100,000, whatever people that were going to be in watching this were all going to be going for the subway. So we got out of there and we got back to their house. And on the news that night, they showed people waiting to the subway. They were so lined up on the streets that they couldn't even get into the station to go and wait for the train. So I always congratulated my dad for being a master planner for that event. Or I'd still probably be standing on a street corner in New York.
Didn't they have the USS Constitution sail through on that
Yes.
parade or not? Yeah.
Well, actually, the Constitution, I don't remember if they brought that, Brock. The one I knew that they brought that I remember seeing was the Eagle, the Coast Guard training ship. That came up. Matter of fact, there it is. That's the Eagle right there. So for folks that are not familiar with it, Disney actually did a whole movie about the Eagle. It's a traditional square rigger. It's based in Connecticut on the Thames River. And if you got to get a job in the Coast Guard, you have to go off and learn how to sail. And not that it's any particular skill that you're going to get a lot of use out today, but it's still in service today. It's a really great looking ship. When I worked in Connecticut, the sub base, we would see the thing come down, and I tried really hard to wangle a ride on it, and the guy said, "Okay, I'll get your ride on the Eagle if you'll get me a ride on the submarine." Couldn't quite do that for him. But they had all sorts of different ships from different nations. I remember there were a lot of the ships that came in from South America. They were still being used and brought up, and a lot of these ships had been in bad shape, but the countries had put money into it to just get it into shape so they could participate in this particular event.
Well, a lot of countries still use the square riggers as training ships for people who are going to be officers and stuff, because it's kind of a tradition thing, but it also still teaches them something about how you need to navigate and everything else.
Yeah, that's what the Coast Guard figures. It's a tradition, but it also, you become much more attuned to the effect of wind and how it will affect the ship. Because obviously, if you're steering a destroyer or something, the wind's going to do something, not as much, but it is going to have an effect. Did anybody else go to Operation Sale, or is it lucky enough to see it? Guess not. Like I said, you can see all the people. I believe this was shot from the Jersey side, and it was really just a it was a hell of a day in New York City. I'll tell you that.
Wasn't there also a Cinerama film called Windjammer that was about one of these sailing ships, training ships
Yes,
that
yeah,
they
I don't
made?
remember which one it was, but yeah, it was one of the Cinerama films, right?
Yeah.
Now, somewhere somebody got hold of a copy, and this is one of the Disney film about the eagle is one of the harder films to get hold of. And finally it showed up on eBay and somebody bought it and got it digitized. But it's that was back in the People and Places series of films that they did. It's the sort of stuff you wish they would show on Disney Plus today, just there's so many neat films they have. The People and Places series is just phenomenal. And they just did a new movie. Oh, I'm trying to remember what it's called. God, there's a new film that they did, and they released it as a part of the People and Places series. And everybody was astonished because the last one was 50 years ago. So, we were joking, it's surprised anybody at Disney remembered that thing existed. But yeah, that was one of the things I thought Walt was great. I mean, how much money can you make in a movie about pearl divers in Japan or the Coast Guard ship or anything? But they were not full-length movies, they were featurettes, paired up with one of the other films. But there was some great stuff in them. During the time I was growing up, they would have something called Fleet Week. And they have it here, I think, in San Diego, maybe LA, but they would bring ships in to port. It's like, remember the movie On the Town? All the sailors, go running off the ship and go have fun for their 24 hours. Well, the Fleet Week would come in, and you could take tours of the ships. And I remember my grandfather took me and my brother Jim in one time, and it was the first time I'd ever been on a submarine, and it was a diesel powered boat. I have pictures of it still when I did it. Tied up at the dock. They didn't take you any place or anything, but it was such a thrill. I think I was probably about 10 years old or something like that. And you got to go on an aircraft carrier. You got to see a destroyer, go on a submarine. It was really a great thing that they did. And I don't know if they still do it in New York at all. Warplanes flying overhead. They had a number of them. I think they had the Blue Angels, and I think they also had the Thunderbirds, doing, obviously this is not great footage, but I'll see how it is when I rescan it. But it was really great that they flew them over there and they did all sorts of formations. Fire boats were out in the harbor. Every time a new sailing ship came into the harbor, you come through the Verrazano Narrows under the bridge into this part of the harbor. The fire boats were out there giving them, greetings with giant sprays of water coming out and everything. Now I'll just saw that the life preserver there that jumps into the Mexico thing. So I'll go back at some point and try to figure out where they were and what they were doing. So going back to Disneyland, the build attraction for today, we're going to go to 1963. So let's see here. Okay, 19. Okay. Give this a try here.
In the last week or so, we've had legacy flight training out here in Tucson. Unfortunately, I live pretty far from the air base, so I haven't really seen them, but I have heard them.
Yeah, we were in Tucson a number of years ago, and I was thinking if I lived near Davis Monthan, I would not be a happy camper. There were a lot of, I mean, these planes they were loud. Well, we used to have a National Guard base down at Van Nuys Airport, and the guard would go, "Oh, you've got a ticket book in the hand. What do we spend our ticket on, Dad?" But the National Guard would go out for maneuvers, and they would start all the C-130s up, and they would let them run for about an hour to get them up, warmed up and up to speed and everything. And we're probably about 8 miles from the airport or something. But when you have 10, 20 C-130s all sitting there with all four engines going, you could actually hear the noise up here. And eventually the city convinced them to move the base, and they're gone now. They're at a Point Mugu. But it was like every Wednesday night or every third Wednesday or something, all of a sudden you start hearing a noise. What the hell is that? Oh, yeah, National Guard. And this is where the stabilization software does a nice job. It focuses on the people, in the Dumbo ride and stabilizes them, but kind of ignores, the rest of the park whizzing by. And what's amazing,
Those are some great shots. Yeah.
yeah, the guy that did it, the program is called D Shaker, and it's free. I mean, he basically wrote it for his own use, and this stuff is all done as a program called Virtual Dub. And there's people that write amazing filters to do all sorts of things that change that. I mean, the trouble is some of them are not well documented because some guy wrote it for himself and here it is, good luck with it. But it's a whole open source community with some really, really great tools that they put in there. Like you ever see somebody stick a logo on a movie, say like Bill Cotter on the bottom right corner with some logo. And the guy comes up with the thing, delogoize, and it goes off and figures out, oh, this never changes in every aspect of the film, but the film's moving. So this is the logo, and now how do I grab other data? Just like you have dirt and scratch removal, it figures out how to fill in where the logo was. So I apologize for the Dramamine effect here, but you can do some, like I said, pretty amazing stuff with it.
Some stabilizing things introduce a little bit of a crop factor, so you can move into the margins to wiggle
Yeah,
things around.
all these are cropped a little bit, and then you get again to adjust that. If I really wanted to, I could do it and tell it what you do is what's called overscan. You scan the film and you get the edge of the frame, and you get the sprocket holes and everything else, and then it will stabilize it. And then what it does is it leaves the image in the center and doesn't take anything out. But what you end up with was flickering borders on the left, right, the top, and bottom, and I found that to be very distracting as the border widths changed as the thing was moving around. So I opted to go the slightly crop thing, and on these particular ones, it's cropping. I mean, this thing is 2400, I think 2480 or something wide, and it's cropping it by about 6 pixels on a side. So I figure if I lose 12 out of 2480, it's not the the worst loss there. And like I said, it's just like scanning films. I always crop my films down so they look rectangular, square, whatever. The actual film mounts usually have a little bit of rounding in it. But a friend of mine does all of his where he overscans the slide and you see the mounts and everything. I tend to take that out because the edge of the mounts often are where you collect the most dust or dirt, and I don't want to see all that, so I tend to crop in. I don't know if this goes on much more. Let's see. I don't know where they are, what they're doing. Hang on here. So let's see. Is it that this was labeled part 1? Let's see what part 2 has.
It was funny. It looked like they were on the submarine voyage, and then all of a sudden they're in their backyard.
Yeah.
One continuous shot.
Well, maybe they lived at Disneyland. I don't know.
Oh, sure. Of course.
Yeah. So in this particular reel, they went there twice, and we could see that this is a sign up there, Disneyland 61. And there's that kiosk again at the entrance. That there were a number of them. It's also kind of fun to watch the Disneyland band and their uniforms change over time. In the background, the Hill Brothers Coffee House restaurant there. you know,
Mhm.
later became the American Egg Cafe and stuff. So, you know, just little bits of the history that are all caught and gone. There's another neat program, well, no pun intended, the program is called Neat. And I think I've shown some of it. Neat Video, and it runs about 75 bucks. That one's not free, but it will go and do an amazing job of taking out too much grain noise and you know, making the picture like all this flickering grain around the Matterhorn in the sky and everything. It will take out all those digital scratches and dirts and everything. There are some free ones to do it, but they're not as good in my opinion as Neat. And it's again, what you do in a movie like this is you go and grab that sky and say adjust the grain here in the sky, which is very coarse, but we don't need you to do a blanket across the field change on everything because those people's faces we just saw didn't look bad. And you have to do some fine tuning and that, but it does a very nice job. So if you're into video, Neat Video, it operates as a plug-in to most major film editing programs, and it might be a standalone version, but it's a great little tool to put in your digital toolbox.
Weren't most of these old films recorded with sound of that year?
No,
Yeah,
back in the
sound.
60s, you didn't have much in the way of sound film. First of all, on the regular 8 movies, there was not a lot of the way the sprocket holes and stuff were done. There wasn't a lot of room. They did come up with some 8mm movies that were sold as souvenirs did have an optical soundtrack on them. But when Super 8 came out, they were able now to add on magnetic stripes, and I'm not sure exactly what year they came out. So I was on a TV game show, and one of my prizes was a sound movie camera and sound projector, and you know, it was really fun. You know, you record things and you know have people saying stuff. The only trouble is it was more expensive to get that developed than it was regular film. And you have to be careful because again, I have some of it now. There are film scanners that will record the audio off the film. Mine does not do that. So what I have to do is project it on my sound projector, record the sound on a digital file, and then marry them up. What you've got to be real careful about though is that a lot of that magnetic striping on these Super 8 movies is very fragile, and even the favorite film cleaner that I use, PEC 12, can tend to loosen the magnetic particles and it'll come off. So and thank God I learned this by practicing with somebody else's junk film. So I really can't physically clean a sound film because it will damage the magnetic track.
Huh.
But the movies where I did show, like we did some Disneyland souvenir movies, you know, and Disney World souvenir movies, those were done again with magnetic tracks. Most, again, for everything you come up with is an exception. Most home movies did not have an optical track on them. Most projectors didn't have an optical track, you know, 8mm anyway, 16, a lot of them did. But in some cases, some guy wanted to do it and he bought it. And, you know, so every now and then I'll get some film that someone would ask me to do something with and I go, what the hell is this? There's our mules. I always try to figure who designs hats like that, you know? Everybody walking out with a cockatoo stuck on their head.
Wasn't it the Prussians?
Yeah,
You know, PRU, you know,
yeah, right,
Russians with a P in front.
right.
Prussians.
Oh, isn't that guy's great? Hat great, the big orange feather. Remember, those were
Yeah,
the
he's copying
absolute
Walt Disney.
rage. Oh, I remember going to the World's Fair, and everybody wanted to have one of those hats, you know, with a feather. I mean, that they show up a lot in the 62 World's Fair movies, 64 World's Fair movies, and a few of them show up at Expo 67, but it seemed like right around 65, 66, they fell off the planet Earth. But you know, I do remember going to the fair and man, I wanted one of those hats, and you
They
know,
ran out of ostriches.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think
Just
there were any ostriches in those. I think they were all chemical feathers. But I
were
remember I
they?
got my hat and I brought it home, and I really, really liked my hat, and so did my dog.
Aw.
They learned their lesson after Davy Crockett, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't come up with something that you can run out of.
Yep.
You know, it's funny, when I was in Chicago with Bess Parker, and he was said at the end of the night, you know, I'm really glad we didn't talk about the damn caps. So the next day I asked him about it, and he said, yeah, you know, they tended to smell pretty gamey after a while. And I forget how many he said he went through for the show. And there was a whole big thing about how he donated his coonskin cap to the Smithsonian. Well, it was one of, you know, several that he wore. But you know, all of a sudden, every kid in the country had to have a raccoon skin cap, and I just I'm very glad that the raccoon did not become an endangered species because of that. Okay, and let's see, we've got time for maybe one more here. So that was 1963. This is another regular 8 film here. Okay, let's give this a go.
Can you see me?
No, I
Let's see
cannot.
it.
Oh,
Looks
well,
on
I've
the
got one
phone.
of those stylish hats on.
Oh, I'll see you when this is done then. Please keep it nearby.
Where'd you get that thing, Tom? Where'd you get it from?
I think I've had this since I was like 5, because it doesn't even begin to fit me. I don't know. I
And
I
still
had
kept
one
it.
when I was little, and then I just found this in the toy box downstairs.
Is it synthetic fur or real hair?
It's synthetic, so
Otherwise, it
it
wouldn't
can't be
smell
too
right.
old. Yeah, it can't be from when I was little because it's definitely synthetic.
So synthetic hat.
But it
raccoon
did
too.
remind me of my childhood. I had Davy Crockett pajamas and a Davy Crockett hat, and couldn't be separated from either one.
It's so funny how the things are so important to you know, to people, and how you get fixated on things. And you know, when I was cleaning out my parents' house, every now and then you'd open up a box, and wow, all of a sudden you're 6 years old again, remembering it. It's just kind of fun, some of the things that were stuck down in the basement. So this is the regular 8 movie. You know, and again, you can't say that you know, what year was it done because of the when Super 8 came out. I mean, people are still using regular 8, but you can look at things like the paint job we just saw on the Matterhorn bobsleds. You know, try to figure out from still pictures what years they were. Excuse me. And then, you know, if there are shots of things like Main Street, you know, which you know, vendors, licensees came and went and changed things around. I was doing a picture
What
the
is
other,
that mountain actually made out of? Is it concrete?
yeah, it's steel interior with a concrete you know, exterior that's been handcrafted to look like you know, boulders.
Right.
But again, see, the rockets here are bright you know, yellow and red. You can start trying to date back the years that that came in. I was doing a picture the other day, a still picture, and I was doing the Matterhorn, and I happened to look at it. And there's a guy standing up at the top of it, right at the very top of the Matterhorn, and he didn't appear to be in one of the Swiss climbing outfits. You know, that they would have, you know, Fritz and Hans climb up the Matterhorn, which would not be a job I'd want to do. But there's a hatch up at the top, and he's just standing up there. And you know, I went up there and I opened up the hatch and I looked out of it, and there was no way on God's earth you would ever get me to stand on top of the Matterhorn. There's a guy I know that says if I come back to Seattle, he'll let me stand on the roof of the Space Needle. And I said to him, I just don't think I could do it. I mean, I developed a fear of heights over the years. But a woman posted a picture of herself yesterday. Oh yeah, when I worked there, they let me stand up on the roof, and it's like she's not wearing a safety harness or rope or anything. She's just standing on the roof of the Space Needle, and I'm going, oh my God. It's also when I was, you know, up there at the top of the Matterhorn, it was kind of windy up there. You know, I mean, we're not talking the winds that we had here yesterday or 2 days ago, but it was still pretty breezy. And like I said, I don't think I'd want to just stand up there, and it's not real big. And if a gust of wind came by, I wouldn't want to find out the hard way. Jeez. This is all gone now. In the Paul Pressler years, this mountain was made of a wood frame, unlike the Matterhorn being steel. So this was a wood frame, again, stucco, concrete, and stuff on the outside of it. Dry rot got into the mountain, and termites and everything were eating it. So the mountain was becoming structurally unsafe. So they took it down. I think in Walt's year they would have put the mountain back, maybe even a better one. But in the Paul Pressler years, if it didn't make me a buck, I'm not doing anything. So the whole, three sister falls, or whatever they called it, Bridal Veil Falls, the whole thing was just taken out, and it's gone. So, which is to me real disappointing that, I know I'm an old fart, but to me, if it was important to Walt, it should still be there, or improved upon, not removed. So same guy, he went out, took multiple reels. Some of it, we have some exposure issues again that I can work on when I get it into the editing program. But little kiosk. Oh, right there. Let me go back that real quick. 1 second. Oh, come here. Where's my mouse here? Okay.
When were the teacups painted white? I don't remember that.
They're not really so white. They're bleached out, Tom. That was part of
Oh.
the problem with the exposure in it.
Oh,
Yeah. I will do what I can to fix it, but yeah, it was. Hang on. I've got to get back to this one shot, which went by real quick. So let me just start this again. It's worth seeing.
Carolina. Grizzly Flats, was it?
No, it's coming up here. I'll stop it when we get there.
Oh, I
Okay.
meant the railroad car. Yeah.
Anybody know what we're looking at here?
Kiosk.
A kiosk. And that kiosk was called the Art Corner.
Oh, really? That's where it
Yep.
was.
Yep, that's where they sold Disney cells for $1. So
Wow.
they would come up from Disneyland, they would go to the studio and pick up piles and piles of cells as the movies were made. The studio would save some for what you call it, historical purposes. They saved the animation.
Archives.
The cells went down to Disneyland, and then they had they would sell them down there with a photocopied, printed background, and that they didn't always mix. You'd end up with a cell of Donald Duck with a Alice in Wonderland background or something. But they put them in a mat, and then there's a gold sticker on the back that this was sold at Disneyland. And they operated a mail order business, and you could, again, you couldn't see them in advance, but you would say, please send me, 2 Donald Ducks, 1 Mickey Mouse, 1 Sleeping Beauty, and 3 Alice's. And okay, that's $9 plus tax, and they would mail it to you. So I keep joking, if I had my time machine, what would you do? Well, I think one of the things I would do would go to Disneyland and go to the Art Corner.
Yeah.
You could make the money.
In
What's
the
that?
middle, it looks like Dopey. Is that true? Is he like a standy thing, or is it a character?
No, I think this is one of the people right here working behind. This is a customer right here. Standing. I think this is the person working behind the counter.
So the person
Wow.
They had
I mean, it
bins
sure
of
looks like
cells.
Dopey.
Yeah, I don't think so. If we move it a little.
weren't there cells painted on glass?
No, well, very few of them. The ones painted on glass were done for the multiplane camera,
Right.
and the very few of them. And they did sell some of those. A company called Courvoisier Galleries did sell some of those. But down here at Disneyland, everything was mass, market sort of stuff. So none of the glass stuff. I don't think any of the glass stuff was ever sold at Disneyland. Yeah, I think
I've seen those things in art galleries.
yeah. But
Yeah,
I think
well, the glass ones tend to also be just background or foreground stuff, not character stuff, because they
Right.
weren't animation. You just, the camera panned through it.
Right.
yeah, so that again, the figure, you see the customers are now moved to the left, and I believe she's talking to the person working there in the art corner. So
Okay.
but yeah, this is like I have 1 or 2 still pictures of it, and I just look at it and go, oh boy, I mean, great stuff. anyway, I just saw that go by and figured people would, you know, vicariously live and think about all the money, and not just the money. I mean, they sold some incredibly nice stuff for $1. And, to think how much that would look great on the wall of your office today, right?
Mhm.
Guys that's another interesting one. Let me see if I stop that real quick. Everybody talks about, the show of the park. You can't do it. Like somebody just made a comment the other day. They saw a movie from 1963 or something, and it was, or I think it was 58, and it was a vehicle on Main Street. Well, again, sometimes if you got to park and you got to fix things or do things, so we're at Storybook Land, and here's a bunch of guys working up at the top of it. So you try to be show oriented and not have a lot of workmen out during the day. But if something breaks and you need to fix it, you only have so many hours to do stuff, and sometimes doing it in the dark doesn't work. So just kind of
Wouldn't
interesting.
it have been funny if they wore camo, like
Yeah,
painted their faces and hands and everything and went to work so nobody would see them?
yeah. Dress up as a character. Yeah, look and see the 7 dwarfs up there doing the gardening. It's like they're doing their money.
That would even be better.
I like that idea.
The only trouble is the hands and the dwarf costumes don't work. So
Oh no.
They're too big.
Well, from that distance, nobody could tell. And
yeah,
but they could be singing, hi ho, oh, it's soft work, I go.
right. That round area we just saw was the flight circle, where you could go out and you could fly a model airplane, gas-powered model airplane on a rope, and fly it around a circle, and then they would teach you how to make it, soar and dip and that sort of stuff. So, again, you can imagine it was probably a pretty loud part of the park and smelled like gasoline. So, the show elements have changed over time. No track on the monorail, on the car rather, in the Autopia. So, occasionally you just pound off into the berm on either side.
Or the car in front of you.
Yeah. Well, you can still hit the car in front of you whether there's a rail or not.
True, true.
So now we're down, taking our submarine voyage. You can see even when this film has been cleaned chemically, how much dirt and stuff is still on it. I mean, and that the scanner blows it up. It blows it up so much, takes it at a high def and it's just there.
Bill, is some of that because maybe they weren't using very clean chemicals?
Uh,
Clean
you know,
bath, maybe?
it's really interesting to like on some of these, you can definitely tell at times people have these things done by Kodak, or sometimes it was done by somebody else. And I remember with my own films, I was taking 35 millimeter film, and sometimes it would come back from the lab and I'd go, what the hell did I do wrong? I mean, this looks like crap. Well, what I realized once I got the film scanner and I started scanning the negatives was that, the negative, actually, I didn't do too bad that day, but the lab just put everything on auto and everything just got blown out. But
Yeah,
I
they're
also had
recycling the chemicals.
yeah, I had some slides I did, particularly around the 78 to 80 era, where we had a great thing at the studio where you could take the film, drop it in a little envelope at the Employees Recreation Club, and 2-3 days later you pick up your envelope and go. It was real convenient. The trouble is almost every one of those slides I had done in that period of time has turned bright green. Again, whatever lab they sent it to, it wasn't Kodak. Whatever lab they sent them to, they did a terrible job. They looked okay at the time, but the colors have really shifted, and they take like this film footage. This is all going to be gone. I apologize to you. Like I said,
No, it's fine.
but yeah, this is
Very realistic.
Warp 7 train here.
Yeah. I imagine when the stabilizer program hit this, I'm taking the week off.
Yeah, I mean, I think Carolyn's onto it, and they keep reusing the chemicals over and over, and they lose their ability to interact with the emulsion on the film. So
yeah,
so eventually, you'll get nothing left but green.
Yeah, it's not just the chemicals, but whether they watched the film properly.
Yep. Well, that's one of the things I mentioned on my website about the films, the souvenir slides from like the '64 fair. You know, they must have had quality control that did not exist, because, you know, you get the picture and there's dirt embedded right in the image. I mean, it's not not on the emulsion. It's part of the image, because they were taking their master, not cleaning it and happily duplicating it. So the scanner goes by and it says, well, I can't detect that as dirt because it's not built up. I can't detect it as a scratch because it's not thinner. So I'll just leave it there. Here's the waterfall barely trickling.
Wow, that looks weird.
Yeah, and then you can see all the track behind it, which is normally you know, covered over by it. But yeah, I mean, that's the trouble, you know, again, you get what you pay for, I guess. And you know, Kodak always had pretty good standards. But if you went to, you know, like we had a place in my hometown called Camera Fair. No idea how, you know, they did it or anything, but the stuff that they did still seems to have held up pretty well. So they may have just sent it off to Kodak and charged on a premium, or he may have had a good lab himself and he did a good job. But you know, the Camera Fair stuff, you know, still looks like it was shot, you know, yesterday. You get some of these other films, and or particularly the film stock, if it's Ansco it's the worst thing on the planet Earth. But you know, the like I said, it's just, when I look back at that, whatever film processing lab the Disneyland Recreation Club used, or it was actually called the Mickey Mouse Recreation Club. For one, it started off good, it ended good, but there was a period of time in there for a number of years where I really cringe now and wish I had a chance to send it someplace else.
They send it to Films R Us.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, only 3 cars on the monorail.
Yes, much shorter.
Yeah.
Or I can try to come in date. So we've got one more reel from this guy. And again, kind of overexposed. I'll see how much I can fix, you know, as I go through it. But you know, the old saying, can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. Sometimes you just have to you know, look at it. It was actually interesting, you know, I've been really nervous about, you know, the scanner and everything with the parts issues and everything. So somebody on the forum said, oh, here's a what you call it, a scanner company in Germany you might want to look at. So I stayed up way late last night looking at it. And it was interesting because they said, oh, you know, part of the charm about old movies is the colors are slightly this and slightly that and everything. So we've built our scanners, and initially they came out like this, but didn't have the film look, so we adjusted in this. And I'm looking and go, what the hell did they do that for? They had, which was kind of faded and everything, and then the scanner did a really, really nice job. But then they said we adjusted it to put some of the fade in. I can't believe somebody did that and thought that was a good thing. So I said, all right, that's off my list of alternatives. They were on, it was movies meant to be shot as a movie, and it's a company in Germany, so they don't call them movie projectors, you know, and everything. I don't know if it's auto translated or whatever, but the guy is going on, and they don't talk about a projector, they talk about a beamer, you know. And when you see your movies and everything, and I'm just keep thinking of Star Trek, you know. But
Oh, I was thinking a BMW motorcycle.
yeah. But I mean, I'm looking at their site, and it's like, we fixed the problem making this look too not modern. We put the, you know, we put the film look back into it, and it was like, give me the option, you know. I don't want to, you know. So let's see the hat, Tom. I didn't get to see that.
Oh,
Happy anniversary to you. What day is it again? What day is it?
Patrick's Day.
so I obviously had it on.
Mine is next Thursday, the 21st. I'm going to be 53 years.
Wow, congratulations.
53 years already.
You know, we were just, when we were out picking a venue and date, came up, you know, whatever, March 17th. Okay, we'll go for it. And then later I realized St. Patrick's Day. But I like to joke that if you're Irish and you know, you get married on St. Patrick's Day, we'll make sure you never forget your wedding. You know, you see all the jokes on TV about people forgetting their anniversaries and everything.
I miss St. Patrick's Day by 4 days.
Oh, yeah.
Easy to remember. First day of spring, March 21st.
Well, congratulations. The Ides
Yeah.
of March.
Thanks.
Oh, but wait, don't they say beware the Ides of March?
Bill, I wanted to take a quick minute to talk to Eric real fast because he
Yeah.
wasn't on a couple of weeks ago. Eric, that short you sent me on the commercial, just so you know, I am the third voice you hear, or the third line in that. And the person asking the question, because I answer, it's I can't remember what it is, Communications Go or whatever it is. Person asking is the voice of oh boy, I just blanked out here.
Harriet Burns, right?
Yeah, Harriet
You mentioned
Burns.
Harriet Burns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harriet Burns. Okay.
Yeah. Beth,
Oh, did you?
Beth was
did
so
you-
kind. Oh, Beth
ahead.
was kind enough to relay the message to me
Oh,
about
okay.
that, and I thought that was so great. And then I did go back and watch that portion of the clip from a couple weeks ago. So I appreciate
Okay,
that.
good.
Yeah, that's great.
Well,
I was
thank
super
you, Beth.
excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, next time we have a lunch, I have to get Brock's autograph. I mean, meeting a celebrity like that. What's
Well, it's something I remember as a child watching those commercials and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh! And then when you ride the attraction, of course, back in the day, and you used to hear that, and so I'm like, oh
Yeah.
that's neat. Yeah.
What's interesting is, they all talk about the hidden Mickeys, at the park, where there's something shaped like Mickey here or there. It'd be really interesting if somebody did a book on hidden Imagineers, because there are all sorts of things. Like if you go to the Carousel of Progress today, and in the final scene where the grandma's beating the kid on the video game and everything, it's Paul Osterhout doing the voice of the kid, that sort of stuff. And then it's gone now, but the Horizons ride, they go into a thing where there's a aquanaut teaching, there's a seal and they're doing something, and it's Debbie Del Mar is one of the AA figures. So it's just kind of interesting to see how they would go and put different people or sneak their name into things, or can you think of any other examples off the top of your head, Brock?
Well, yeah, I was going to say Living Seas in its original iteration, it's been changed when they revamped the building. They took a lot of the graphics away. Overhead in Sea Base Alpha, there were these big, long, I can't remember what we were saying they were, but they were part of the structure. And on the sides of them, there were these big numbers painted again, black letters against, I think, orange background, or went into a white background. And all the numbers were the birthdays of all the major people that worked on the project. Kim Murphy, myself, Tim Delaney, Corey Soulson, but they were our birthdays, up there for that. And then also on the another ride show that's no longer there, the Great Movie Ride, if anybody's been an aficionado of the Indiana Jones original movie, the scene in the temple where they're getting the underground area where they're getting the Ark of the Covenant out, in the background where all the hieroglyphics are in the original movie, there was a hieroglyphic of R2D2 and C3PO hidden in there. And we found the picture of it and found out where it was, and we actually put that in there. And then off to the side of it, we put a Mickey Mouse character in the hieroglyphics too. So we had a true hidden Mickey there, and then we copied the other hidden Mickey from the original movie.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so great.
that's cute. You mentioned Sea Base Alpha. I did a little stuff with working on that, and I was really thinking, oh, this would be great and everything. But remember the hydrolators?
Yes.
Yeah, the idea was you stood in the hydrolator, and it would shake and take you down to Sea Base Alpha. The door would open, you go in. And just to let you know how people can be, some lady ended up suing Disneyland or Disney World, Disney Corporation, whatever, because the change when they brought her back to the surface, the change in the air pressure was too dramatic and it ruined her eardrums. So she goes and sues the company for this thing that she's got a hearing loss and she wants $1 million or something. And they had to go and prove to the court it was just one room you went into, door behind you closed. We shook it, the stuff bubbled and everything. The door opened and you walked right out into it. Because when you did an emergency evacuation of the building, you would just open both doors and have people go through the damn thing. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
seeing the lawsuit, you got to be shitting me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about it is because I worked on that whole thing. And that is the floor actually did move. It dropped 3/4 of an inch when you first started off. So you got that physical sensation
Yeah.
of starting downward, and then it slowly came back up to the right level and all that. So that's all it actually moved. But in reality, like you were saying, it didn't go anywhere. But I went in on the second or the first day it was open. I went in following this family, or I mean, I was leaving following a family after going in. And if you know, in the main hydrolators where you entered, you had the whole rolling rock surfaces and all this, so you actually could see yourself going down in the bubbles and the whole thing. Where in the return one, we didn't want to repeat the act because, you know, any good magician doesn't do an act or the same trick twice, because you'll start to figure things out. So we just did other effects, and there wasn't the rolling rock work, but I was going out and there was this couple or a family, a husband and wife and 2 kids. And as it opened up to go outside back into Epcot Center, we're walking out, he looks over at his wife and he says, because on the original, on the ingoing ones, they had a depth meter gauge that went down to like 60 or 80. It didn't say meters, fathoms, anything. It just had numbers. And he took it to be, 60 feet or something or whatever. And but as he's walking out, he turns to his wife and he looks at her and he says, "There's no way we went down 60 feet, 20 feet max." So I'm watching behind him and he said that and I go like, yeah, we did
Yeah. I wonder
So
if-
even though they thought they could figure it out and they knew that it didn't go down that far, but we did go down this far, of course.
I wonder if
That's
the
awesome.
woman in the hydrolator went back and then sued him for the submarine ride instead, since,
Well,
There's a modern day version of that. If you at Epcot now, in the formerly known as the Horizon area, there's this mission space and a new restaurant called, or not that new, but a restaurant called Space 220, and they kind of replicate the whole hydrolator thing, but it's an elevator that goes into miles into space.
Right.
And then I had heard, my wife was telling me a similar situation. I don't think it was a lawsuit involved, but people were complaining after they came back or got back onto Earth, that they were complaining that they didn't really go into, space, and that, Disney was frauding them and the whole 9 yards. But they did a nice job in terms of simulating going into space. The elevator, the floor moves. It's video screens now, not practical effects, but
Eric,
it's
for the
still-
price, you would think that they were sending you.
I know, right? It's a prefix fare.
for one period of time, I shared an office at Disney with the paralegal that was the first line of defense against all the lawsuits. And every now and then, I still remember her name was Joyce. Every now and then you hear Joyce hysterically laughing and say, "Oh, I can't believe this one." And she'd come and share it to us. But I mentioned, like, the dwarfs don't have real hands. And if you look at the dwarf costumes, you're obviously up in the dwarf head and your arms couldn't reach down to where the hands are. But this one lady came in and sued Disney big time that she had been at the park and one of the dwarfs had copped a feel and fondled her butt and her breast, and now she wanted $3 million because every time she heard the word Disney, Snow White, or anything, she vomited. So they got her in the stand, and this was one of the ones where Disney did it to make a point. They got her in the stand, and she swore under oath that all this happened and everything. And how firmly did he? You sure he didn't just brush against you? No, he firmly grabbed me. I could feel his fingers grabbing my breast. Okay, then they brought in the costume and they showed that it's a fiberglass hand with a rod about this long, and it comes up with a bar, and you hold the bar and you can move the thing around. But there's no way that the the fingers just cannot move. You cannot grab somebody. So they said that the rest of the trial lasted about 3 minutes as the judge thanked the jury, dismissed them. And then people were wondering if Disney was going to go after her for malicious prosecution or false or whatever. And Disney decided, no, we don't want the pound of flesh. But they had made the point to the lawyers out there that we're not just going to roll over on this stuff. But reading the testimony, because I wasn't in the court, but Joyce came back with the testimony and we were reading the stenographer's transcript. it was, they got it good. And he grabbed it really, oh yeah, it's so hard it hurt. Oh, okay.
Bill, this could be your next book. I think this would be great reading. absolutely great reading.
There's a book out there somewhere on the Disney lawsuits, actually. It's a lot. of
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, guy David Koenig did a book about
Oh,
it.
I
And,
forget
oh,
it.
sure, I know him. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
Oh, I
and
haven't seen that book though. Yeah.
yeah, but Joyce, she would call us in and she'd be reading these things, and they were just, phenomenal. What people were alleging, it's just like there was another one. It had something to do with musical instruments. About they came to play at Disneyland, and they came on a bus and everything, and somebody flattened their tuba, and did something like that, and it was like, how did that happen? And an elephant walked across it or something. Okay, we have elephants in the parade, but it's two guys wearing a suit that weighs 180 pounds. It's not an elephant or whatever. And it turned out that they had damaged it somewhere on their bus trip here, and they thought that they could get Disney to buy them a new tuba or saxophone or whatever the hell it was. But I mean, Disney, I probably mentioned this, the woman who died on Space Mountain when I was there. I mean, again, for people that don't know that one, lady goes on Space Mountain. Her husband says she's not feeling well. They said, okay, wave to the people in the dispatch area, and we'll take you off to the left into the maintenance area, and the nurses and everything will be there. Well, he didn't wave. They went through the thing, came out again. Now she's just out of it, comatose and everything. Rush her to first aid, and the husband can't be found. He decided to go out to Coke to get a hot dog and a Coke while he was waiting to see what happened to his wife. Wife gets taken to the hospital, dies. So now the family sues Disney for 20-something million that the ride killed the mother and everything. Well, luckily, when it hit the news, all sorts of people started calling the company. I was there that day. I was standing in the line, and he was propping her up, and she was barely able to get onto the rocket by herself. And she had this pre-existing condition. Well, it turned out she had a terminal medical condition and no life insurance and 2 or 3 kids. So they went to Disneyland and they rode Space Mountain like 20-something times until she finally died. And that's what his insurance plan was, to sue the company and get the money. But luckily, like I said, 50-something people came forward and said, I was there at 9 o'clock. I saw her at 10:30. I saw her at noontime. And it didn't help this case that when they were looking for permission to take her to the hospital, he was at Coke Corner getting a hot dog because it was noontime by then.
Wow.
Yeah, so you just, I mean, the things people do. Do you remember when that happened, Brock?
No, I don't remember that one, but that's amazing. I just can't
Yes,
believe
yeah.
that.
Yep, pre-calculated, just ride her till she dies.
That
Hey,
what you
to
were saying
back
about
up.
that with Hidden Mickeys and the engineers and all reminds me of how a lot of the animators would secretly put their names on older Disney films when they restored them. They'd like the steps in Snow White, they wrote their names on the risers of the steps, and there's a whole bunch of that too. I think there's a YouTube about it, or at least I know there used to be. And it
Yeah.
just showed where they snuck their names in all these different places.
Well, one of the things they did at Disney was in The Rescuers. There's a scene where they get onto Orville, and he dives off the edge of the building, and they go by a high rise. And they thought they were being very clever if they put a topless scene of a woman in there. So the boat, it goes by whatever 24 frames or a second, you don't see it. But on video, you could still frame it. And there's this naked woman standing in there, and they did that. And they also did, when years later, Roger Rabbit, they had written Michael Eisner's phone number for a good time call, and they actually put Eisner's real phone number in it. But then there's a scene where what you call it, baby whatever the baby's name was,
Herman. Baby Herman.
Oh, Baby Herman.
Yeah, he lifts up somebody's skirt and she's not wearing panties. So they did all that. Well, when we were building Epcot, I got there was a thing at Epcot, and Brock may remember this. You could design your own roller coaster, and this hill and that G-force and everything. But I had to go frame by frame by frame by frame for everything they were showing, because at this point they had found out about that scene in The Rescuers, and they were scared to death of what on earth people were hiding other places. So every movie, somebody had to watch every single frame. And I had to go to all the computerized exhibits at Epcot, because again, I was the computer security guy. So I had to watch, oh, okay, the little video at the beginning of the world information kiosk that twirls around. Is there anything hidden in that? And I had to go through every damn frame of everything to just look for naked ladies. It was never found any.
Bill?
Job.
Hey, Bill, wasn't
Yeah.
there a website for a while that showed stolen snaps from people coming down off the rides? You know, there's always a camera at the end of the ride and there'd be some guy grabbing his girl's
Flash.
breasts or something. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was called Flash Mountain. I don't know
Yeah.
if the site is still around or not, but yeah, and that's where again Disney had to go because you could go down the thing, get your picture taken, go and buy it. Well, you know, when they saw it, they wouldn't print it, but what they would do is have it on the video screen that you could say my picture is number 187.
Oh, yeah.
So now the kids are standing there and they're waiting to, you know, and everything comes out. So now Disney's had to put basically a tape delay, you know, system in there that if they see anything objectionable, they go, no on 187,
Yep.
no on 253, you know, sort of thing. So they don't, because people were again complaining to the company. I was there and you know, some guy would lift it up her blouse and my kid saw it. So
I've
now
been traumatized for life.
yeah, scarred for life, right? You know, so now they have to tape delay that so it doesn't appear on the screen, and that's somebody's full-time job sitting there and beep, beep. But yeah, and then one of the Disney employees just snuck out a whole bunch of the ones that they had beeped, you know, and it got out on the internet. So yeah, Splash Mountain became known as Splash Mountain. So it
Regarding the,
with you can't predict what people are going to do.
yeah, regarding the hydrolator, the Science Museum in Chicago had the same illusion for their coal mine exhibit
Yeah.
since the 1930s. And it was always, the elevator actually went down 2 floors because the coal mine was in the basement. But it was always interesting to see the look on people's faces when they exited into the basement by the cafeteria. And it's like, I thought we were 200 feet down. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
well,
remember-
that's true because we actually went to, I think that's at the, what museum is that? Is that?
I
That's
think
not
it's
the
Museum of Science and Industry.
Yeah, the Museum of
Yes.
Science and Industry in Chicago. We went there we did a whole trip where we went to San Francisco, Seattle, then Chicago, and eventually into Baltimore to the new National Aquarium, but all different places where they had aquariums and or museums that had stuff that we thought we might be able to get some information from. And we went on that one, and that was used as a basis for, you know, I mean, it wasn't, we already had the idea, but we wanted to see how they did it and what they did. Of course, we added the water effect to it and the whole thing because we were going down in a water shaft, so to speak. Why we called it a hydrolator, not an elevator to the bottom of the sea. But at any rate, yeah, that museum, I've seen that, and that's a very good effect. It actually does work very, very well.
Yeah, I remember we went there the first time in 1967 going across country, and I was really excited because I went to see the U-505, the U-boat that's on display there. But then, you know, we only had a small amount of time, but, you know, we went in and go to the coal mine. And I didn't know how far we were down, but I knew we had gone someplace. And I thought that was really, really cool that, you know, I said, I didn't even know they mined coal in Chicago. You know? I know. I was 15 years old, but I mean, you know, did you spend much time on the U-505, Wayne?
Absolutely. You know, that and the coal mine were the 2 extra pay exhibits. So every employee had to know the submarine tour.
Yeah, for folks that don't know it, it was the first ship captured by the U.S. Navy at war on the high seas since the War of 1812. And they came across the U-boat. And normally, of course, you know, you get in depth charge, they sink, and aircraft strafes and they sink. Well, this one, they tried scuttling it, but the U.S. Navy got its crew on board fast enough they were able to, you know, keep the boat from going down. Now you've got guys from a destroyer that you're on a submarine, and how the hell do you operate this thing? Well, they didn't dive or anything. They towed it back I think first to Bermuda, someplace like that, but they kept it super, super secret because now they had a U-boat and they had the U-boat codes and everything else that went with it. So they could then, reverse engineer and figure out how deep could these things go or whatever. So, and again, they didn't let anybody talk about it, no press coverage. And then after the war, hey, guess what? We got this German U-boat. So nobody knew what to do with it. So the museum in Chicago put in a bid for it, and they brought it down through the St. Lawrence Seaway and everything, got it there. And they had to stop the traffic along the lake and put giant rollers and basically take the U-boat and tow it across the I don't know, remember the name of the road, the Loop Road or whatever it's called, but tow it across there and get it up to the museum. So fascinating how they did that.
Yeah,
You're-
sort of a modern day version of the shuttle moving through LA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're muted, Wayne, if you wanted to
I mean,
add
that
something.
old day.
Yeah, I've been there to see that myself. It's something to
Wayne,
see.
Wayne's trying to tell us something, but he's muted.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, there are cute press photos of Lakeshore Drive with a sign saying caution submarine crossing.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say, it's Lakeshore Drive, yep.
Yeah. But oh yeah, I mean, I was just fascinated to go on that, and then like we were only there a couple hours, so we divided, half the group would do the boat, half the boat would do the mine, then we'd switch, go back, get on our bus and leave. But it's a great museum. I've been there since then, and it's really very impressive. So, well, I thank everybody for joining, and I don't know what we'll do next week because again, we're going to go party in Palm Springs for 2 days. She wasn't on today, but Kathy Peroni set up a event at the Smoke Tree Ranch, and it's really for folks that don't know it, it's where Walt had his house that he sold to make get the money to build Disneyland, and then bought a later one with the money that he was making on Disneyland. And it's a private community. And I'll try to come up with pictures. I don't know if they'll let me fly my drone over there or not, but it's really a neat spot because a lot of the property has still been left undeveloped, and you can walk out back there and road runners running around or other odds and ends, and it's so we're going out there, and there's a fellow named Michael McGreevy, who, if you watch any of the Disney movies, he was like in all the Medfield comedy movies, he was the co-star with Kurt
Russell.
So, Kurt Russell would be the guy that would get zapped by the computer, and his friend Skylar would be the guy trying to, figure out what's going on. And Kurt Russell figures out how to turn invisible, and Skylar becomes the guinea pig and everything. He was also in one of my favorite Disney things. Two of them that were really good. One was the Sammy the Way Out Seal. It was with Billy Mooney, and he did another one, For the Love of Willadine. Again, a two-part show done for the Disney anthology. So he and I have been in touch for years. He lives a whopping, I think, 15 miles away from me, but we've never gotten together. But I'm going to have the pleasure of interviewing him for a group of about 50 Disney fans that are coming out. And he did all sorts of other things. He and I've spoken over the phone. We've just never been in person. But Richard Widmark took a liking to him and had him in 2 of his movies. And his career, if you look him up on IMDb, it's really remarkable. And so I'm really looking forward to getting out of town for 2 days and not dealing with head-on collisions and stuff. But the ranch, we've been out there, I think this will be the 4th or 5th time. Really kind of a neat spot to go to. So looking forward to that, and maybe that's what next Saturday's talk may be. Bill's view of Smoke Tree Ranch. So.
And do you want me to do the records the week after that?
Yeah. Oh, Tom, that might be. I did want to talk to you either today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
If you aim for next week, that would give me a little bit more time to organize stuff and put it together, because
Yeah, but that would give me a little less time.
it will. But when I get home this week, the 3rd Wednesday of every month is my Wednesday from hell, because that's my Boy Scout Alumni Association board meeting call, and I'm the head of that, so I got to run that. Then we also that night have the Community Police Advisory Board, which I'm the head of that. and I also have to give a presentation on cybersecurity. So yeah, if you could do this coming Saturday, and I'll call you either later today or
Okay.
tomorrow, we'll work out the details, and I'll look at Smoke Tree, down the road. But yeah,
Right.
the third Wednesday of every month, I look at my calendar, and it's like, oh, why does
Yeah.
that's when everybody's available, so we do it all.
Yeah, same here. We have board meetings every Wednesday. It's like, and they last forever.
Luckily, we try to keep them on time. The Boy Scout one starts at 4 in the afternoon because that's 7 o'clock for everybody else is back.
Back east. Right.
So to do that 2 weeks ago. So that's the Alumni Association. I'm also on the board of the Boy Scout Council. Unfortunately, they meetings start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's every other month. So for me, that's 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting there, as they're discussing finance or whatever, and they're all like,
Yeah.
"Oh, donuts and coffee would be served."
Well, so everybody real quick, if I do this, just a teaser is that it's records from World's Fairs, and not all of them, just like the group in that 10-year period, but I've just uncovered some really funny stuff and interesting facts and really fun things, and so I think you'll really enjoy it. And then the other quick thing is just that the silver mine up here in Park City, it used to have a museum where they had animatronics, in the assayer's office. Is that, I think, what you call it? And
Yeah.
then you would go, and it included like maybe, I can't remember if it was 5 different things or 7 different things, but one of them was a real mine shaft that went down 300 feet into the ground. And then you got on a coal train, you're sat in a ore car and rode out for, it was more than 2 miles. And then, part of it was a chairlift, and part of it was, lunch at the top and a gondola down. Oh, part of it was a horse ride, and then another was a horse ride in the actual mine. And I don't know if you guys knew this, but they actually took horses down into these mines, and they lived there their whole lives. And they didn't have to be manned. They just knew to go from stop, wait, and then go to the next stop all by themselves. And
Didn't
then
they
when they got,
lose their eyesight being in the darkness all the time?
yeah, they were in the darkness all the time.
And
Yeah.
they went blind because they were
Yeah.
so
Well,
acclimated to the
they
darkness.
didn't, I don't know if they went,
It wasn't total
no, they didn't go
darkness.
blind.
Yeah.
But they had a hard time when they retired the horses, they put them out to pasture and let them have kind of a good end of life. And a lot of them did have a really hard time adjusting, to the
light.
light.
If
Yeah.
you get a chance, and I don't know if it's on Disney Plus or not, Disney did a movie, The Littlest Horse Thieves, and it was shot. Oh, it was about an English coal mine, I believe. And in the plot of the movie, hopefully I get this right, the horses are going to be retired, but they're not going to be retired nicely. They're just going to take them out and shoot them, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because they were too expensive to feed. When I get you and you're not working for me, I'm gonna. So the idea is these kids find out that they're going to replace the horses with motorized, little trains. So the kids decide to come up with a plan to steal the horses and get them out of the mine, sort of thing. And it's a great movie if you get a chance to see it. The Littlest Horse Thieves.
Yep, I have that. Yep.
Yeah. So that mine, that thing you were talking about is no longer there, right?
No, it's so sad. I mean, we felt so lucky that we got to go on it. It was probably only open for 5 years, maybe. But just even the fact that they had animatronics that were legit, like that, assayers, they'd turn and weigh stuff and talk to you, and then they had a newspaper guy that was, putting letters on the board for to create a paper, a newspaper.
Yeah, you think about all these things that are around, like we mentioned, things like Marineland, Deer Village. We
Yeah.
have all these things here, they're all gone. And that's why I get a kick out of these movies. And I appreciate you people indulging me with, we see some terrible footage of, Washington, D.C. or something. But, look how different the city was, the world was. So, as the news gets increasingly depressing, I just keep going, what was the Twilight Zone, the stop at Willoughby or something? I
Yeah.
can't remember, where the guy he's on the train and there's this town where everything's perfect and everything, and one day he just gets off the train and doesn't get back on. I mean, I'm on my way to Willoughby. So, well, Don, I'm going to give you an address in Austin. I'm going to mail you a can of gas and a stick of dynamite, and
If you give me the name of the firm, I can see if I can get any local news on the guy.
yeah, probably not anything local. It's called Movie Stuff, MOVIESTUFF LLC. But yeah, let's see on meeting of the creditors, April 11th to 2 p.m. and here's the phone number to call in. So something to put on my calendar. I wish everybody a good week. Hope the weather cooperates, and I will talk to you over the weekend, Tom, and we'll see folks next week as Tom takes us down a different rabbit hole. Take care.
Is that
Thank
true?
you.
Happy,
All right.
happy anniversary,
anniversary.
Irv.
Happy anniversary, Bill.
All right.
Happy anniversary, Bill.
Yep.
Bye.